Well, hello everybody. Blair Nightingale here. Welcome back once again. This is Stock Talk Thursday. We do this episode every single week at this time, 6 Central Standard Time, looking at stocks, hot or not. Hot or not. What's hot out there? We want to help you guys understand what's going on. Stocks that may have been hot, maybe not anymore. They are, but what are the dangers that they may change soon? What do you need to know? Stock Talk Thursday. Today, looking at COVID stocks. Going to describe in a little bit, what do I mean by COVID stocks? Some of us probably have some ideas in our heads of what that could mean. Primarily, it's a few main categories. I'm going to review some of those with you today. I'm actually going to pull up the charts on some major, what I would call COVID stocks. And we're actually going to chart those stocks together, okay? I'm going to take the time to actually chart those stocks and show you what I see happening on those particular charts. So you'll want to know that. Some of these you've heard of, companies you've heard of in the news. Maybe you know somebody who's purchased some of these stocks. I'm going to give you an edge by knowing what do I really see going on in these stocks. What are the opportunities here? What are the risks? That said, if you're joining us today on the live recording, you can simply pop a comment in there. Let me know that you're here. Let me know who you are. Let me know if you have any questions. This gets to be an interactive time, and it works even better when we have the opportunity to do that, which of course here we do. So go ahead, send those in to me. Please let me know any questions you might have, and we will dive into those. If you're watching us in the recording, remember, you can always, I'm going to have to set something here so I can show you guys my charts. Let me go ahead and do that. There we go. Let me do this as well. There we go. All right. So you can see the chart up on the screen now. We're going to go through some of these here. So what are we talking about here? First of all, the opportunity that we have in these present market conditions is actually really extraordinary. There's our S&P. Drop that over and do this. Close that out and close this out. All righty. Let's make sure we don't have any questions here. All right, guys. So ultimately looking at COVID stocks, like I said, so unique times, listen, obviously these times are very unique for many reasons, but to look at specifically economically, because what is happening is so deeply affecting every part of our economy and in extension to that, every part of our lives, we've got to know that there are some tremendous opportunities on a general sense, right? In a general sense, on a larger scale, look at the chart I have in front of you. Okay, it looks like it stopped sharing. Let me do this again for you guys so you can see what I'm seeing. There you go. So you can see it. So the chart, and we've looked at this on this program before, okay? Look at what has happened here. Now this yellow line, that's the high of our stock market pre-COVID, okay? So we had a pretty nasty drop there. Okay, but look at what we've done since then. We've not only recovered that ground, but we've made nearly, or at least close to, the same move above where we were pre-COVID. Now, I've gone into detail on previous broadcasts of what I specifically think about that. Would we consider our economy to be that much better than it was pre-COVID? And there are reasons why the market has responded as much as it has. It's not necessarily that our economy has gotten that much better. There are some other factors at work. And I think that really in the short term, they're lifting the market, but long term, they could potentially create some very unwanted effects. That said, that is outside of the scope what we're looking at today. Look at the opportunity. This is what traders have had. Okay. Now, if you have the right skill sets, we didn't like that this happened, right? Our economy shutting down, the reasons it shut down, sensitive to that. Sometimes I have people ask me at Tradeway, I would have thought for sure this one terrible news item or this thing, this disaster that happened in the world, maybe in the country, man, Wall Street would have responded to that. Stocks would have dropped. But the truth is it's not just that Wall Street are just cold, money idolaters, chasing a buck in any circumstance. There's just definitely a better way to say that. You know what I mean? This attitude that sometimes you hear regarding Wall Street. Now, there's a whole conversation to have about Wall Street and greed and all that aside. It's not actually accurate to say that Wall Street goes up and doesn't care at all about things that are happening in the world. It's just that investing and trading happen based on, do we see the potential for growth in these companies? Okay. And that's really important for our topic today, because if we are going to see growth in a company, that means regardless of the circumstances, there is an opportunity for us to invest in that. Now, somebody might say, are we potentially profiting off a bad thing? I had some questions yesterday about pot stocks in one of our programs inside Tradeway, pot stocks. Specifically with COVID stocks, are we profiting off of a bad thing? Well, there's an opportunity here because companies are looking at a bad thing, looking at a problem and saying, we are creating solutions. And ultimately, that's what good companies do. They create solutions. If you can solve big problems, then you have the potential to be a big or even bigger company. Now, my commentary today isn't about big companies, but rather they're solving a big problem, which means there's big opportunity for growth. And they are meeting those opportunities. And as a result of that, they are growing. So there are a lot of stocks that are exploding. They're growing very, very quickly. This is why I wanted us to look at COVID stocks today. And some of them, I'm certain many of you out there have already heard about. You've already heard about some of these in the news. Even if you weren't necessarily looking for news on the stock, the company has been in the news because of what is happening. So unique times bring unique opportunities. And I've been saying this now for some time. As you look at the screen here, this market is, we talked last week about, or on Monday rather, about being bullish versus bearish. This chart is, I would say, insanely bearish, or bullish, insanely bullish, because it is just going. And this has created that opportunity. So what can we do with some of these stocks? I've got a list. I've got about 7 stocks I want to go through with you today. Ask questions as I go through if you have them. I'm going to go through these. I want to show you what I'm seeing in these particular stocks, in these particular patterns, and give you some idea of how I can break those down and actually maybe begin to trade them. Now, I do want to say, looks like Facebook has given me a prompt here. I do want to say that as I go through these, and I will explain this more too, I'm not necessarily saying, hey, let's go out and buy these COVID stocks, okay? This isn't my list of recommended COVID stocks to buy today. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as I go through them individually. But as a whole, just to say up front, we're looking at these stocks. There can be opportunity here. But one of the things that I always try to, and we do at Tradeway, teach our students how to do, is delineate between, okay, there may be an opportunity overall in the stock, but when is the best time to take advantage of that opportunity? Because remember, trading and investing are two different things, okay? You may invest in a company for a long time. You may trade a company for a very short amount of time. Now, Tradeway isn't day trading, okay? So we're not getting that short, but we're doing what's called swing trading, where you're looking at about 2 to 3 days to maybe 2 to 3 weeks in the trade, okay? That's really what we're looking at. So I am wanting to look for, are there some potential opportunities, but we've also got to define what does that look like? And that's something that I want to help you do. So let me just start by saying this. A lot of the stocks we're going to look at, because of the nature of COVID, right? COVID-19 is a virus. So now we're talking about biology, which brings into really two major sectors, okay, of stocks and companies that we trade. Number one, biotech, okay? That is a sector that we can trade in the markets, biotech. Another one is pharmaceuticals, okay? These are areas of the market where we can specifically focus on companies that do the kinds of things that are involved with pharmaceutical drugs, testing, trials, clinics. Biotech is a very similar, distinct for sure, but a similar category. So we're looking at stocks in that specific area, okay? Now, with that, it's important to say up front, there are unique risks really to any investment, okay? Knowing a little of what the unique risks are is something that I come on here every week to try and help you understand, okay? Now, with this specific area of the market, we have always heard from our founder and CEO, David Mitchell, I certainly have, that one of the things that he does not like doing, remember I'm talking about trading. He does not like trading biotechs and pharmaceuticals, which is exactly what we're talking about today. Now, keep in mind that that was said prior to all of this happening, but I want to show you something. You can see the chart right here at the bottom of my list. I'm going to show you this and I'm going to explain to you why David would even say that. Now, to the degree that I understand it, I'm going to explain to you. David may say there are some other reasons why he wouldn't do this, but I know personally for a fact that this is one of the big reasons. Now, you don't have to look at this chart very long, okay? Let's zoom out a little bit here. We've got this stock. Okay, it's been trading somewhere between $5 and $10 for quite some time. If I go to a bigger time frame, we can just kind of get an idea of what the stock has done all time. Chart here, let's go. You know, it's kind of moving down as far as the highs go for a little while, but basically moving sideways. But what's the big thing here, guys? Well, number one, this day, the stock lost I should say actually this day. That would be the 8th of September. This stock lost 75% of its value overnight. Okay, that happened overnight. That wasn't during the day. So if you were in this stock on that day, you would not have had an opportunity to exit the stock until the next morning. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I don't think I see a really huge candlestick here, because it had lost so much value already that there wasn't a lot of panic selling at that point, because if anybody was in this, whatever value they had was 75% gone already, okay? And then, of course, it sold off some the next few weeks here. What happened here? Well, this is what I want to say about biotechs and pharmaceuticals. And remember, we're talking about these COVID stocks that are extremely hot, and we're hearing about them, and people are running out and just buying these stocks. Well, there's something I want to at least say. This is a risk of these companies. Now, this isn't necessarily going to happen to all of them, okay? It doesn't. But I do want to tell you, I know people who were in this particular stock, okay? Now, this happened because these companies, okay, remember, They sell products that solve biological problems, right? They sell drugs. They sell vaccines. We're going to get to that in a minute. They sell these kinds of things. Well, these vaccines, these drugs, these clinical trials that test their products, they cannot sell a product until they pass those trials. So keep this in mind as we go through this. If a company is pouring money into a product and is telling you and me, hey, this product's going to be great. Hey, it's going to be really good. Hey, it's going to do this. It's going to do that. And then it fails the trials. Whatever reason, it fails. It's not effective. It's not safe. Too many side effects, whatever the case might be. Well, then we have no product, right? Overnight, the product is gone. So those are some of the unique risks. So we've just got to know, hey, what am I really dealing with here? What am I getting into? Now, I always want to talk about the risks of a trade. That doesn't mean that I'm saying don't do anything, as I'm generally speaking to traders, okay? But I am saying if you're going to do anything, do it understanding the risks that you're taking, okay? Now, I'll say one final thing on this. This is, as I mentioned, this isn't normal in that it happens all the time, but it is a unique vulnerability of this particular part of the market. So that's something that we need to be aware of. Jeffrey says, I couldn't find you on Facebook like I normally do. I did get a prompt partway through there that says something about Facebook is having an issue. And I actually did hear something from our office earlier today that Facebook was giving some people trouble. So that is possibly what we had happening there. So apologize to you guys for that, but glad you made it there, Jeffrey. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so a couple things. This is our first one. This is a genetics company. Okay, this is out in the area of testing. Okay, they are literally producing testing kits, testing sites. I think they're doing at-home testing kits. Now, here's something I've talked about before. I don't buy and sell based on the fundamentals of the company primarily, because I'm not looking to invest in a company for a long period of time, right? I'm looking to take advantage of short-term opportunities. But like I said, I want to know something about what are they doing. This company, let's just take a second here. I'm going to get rid of all these lines that are on here. And let's just take a second and realize that, you know, back in July, let's just start there, right? July of 2019, this was worth $7.51, okay? Then we start getting into the spring of 2020. Of course, we all know what happened there, and it starts to take off, especially in the last few days. I think that's had something to do with some at-home kits. We're seeing variants of the virus. So that's also, I think some of these companies, one of the risks is as some of these vaccines come out, does that mean that a testing company is not going to be needed so much? But then we see these variants of the virus starting to come forward. So that's created a boost. So testing is one thing that's exploding, right? It's growing incredibly fast and it's in very high demand. So these companies are in very high demand. And of course, that has appreciated the price of the companies. The stock is going up. There's also speculation on these stocks too. So the price of the company, the price of the stock is rising as the company reports quarterly earnings. They're doing better and better and better. But also at the same time, speculative traders and investors are coming in and going, hey, I'm just going to buy up this stock because I think it's going to the moon. And that drives the price of the stock up, which only ends up bringing other investors in to speculate. But that's the thing that you and I need to watch for. And I think that's exemplified on this chart. Look at these last 3 days. 3 days. It's gone from 70 to 170 in 3 single days. And we were at the high today at about 190. So we're getting close to tripling the value in 3 days. Okay, and I'm seeing this a lot, which is why I wanted to talk about this today. There's certainly a lot of stocks out there that are doing these kinds of movements. I saw something the other day that was up over 1,000% in a day. A stock up over 1,000% in a day. Okay, this is the kind of thing that's pulling a lot of people into the market. But remember, I said I want us to understand the risk. So let me point out two things, and we're going to see this on some other charts too, but I need to say this here. The first thing is, remember, we've got an earnings report here. Okay, earnings reports are sort of like what we just saw on CRBP. Remember the one that made that big drop? They're sort of like that. Okay, they are unpredictable. We don't actually know what's going to happen. You say, well, what about this company? Maybe this company's going to explode. Isn't there more testing happening? Isn't that why it went up the last 3 days? Well, for all we know, the earnings report could come out and say, hey, we grew, but we grew less than we did last quarter. We didn't expect that. Oops, surprise, the stock could drop. There's just no way to really know. I always tell the story of Apple. Apple comes out, this is years ago, reports earnings, they sell, the revenue is phenomenal. They give their quarterly earnings report and they give all this great data. But one part of that data was we didn't sell as many iPhones as we thought, right? We didn't sell as many iPhones as many iPhones as analysts thought we would sell. And the stock dropped as a result of that. So you're never really sure. So just know earnings is gambling, okay? If we're trading stocks, staying in earnings is gambling. And this is certainly something that's not unique to this stock or this sector, but is something we need to pay attention to on here. The temptation here, and this is what I'll say about this stock, the temptation here is to look at this and go, well, if I don't buy this now, I'm going to miss the move. And that's the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Now, that's never the reason I want to trade, because that basically takes me into guessing, gambling, and going for it, which trading is never guessing, gambling, or going for it. So I end up going for it. Let's just take a look at this for a second. Remember the Wall Street bets. I know people who got in the stock up here, okay? They were afraid of missing out, right? There was no objective way to do entry and exit on the chart. It was just got to get some of this stock. And how do you know you're not going to just buy into a high? Once it becomes this, what we call extended, after these huge moves, that's what attracts so many people, because they think, oh, the stock's going to keep going up. And it may continue to go up for a little bit. But we just don't know how to manage the risk if we are going to jump in there. Now, with the right skill sets, we can implement some things to help us do that. But ultimately, we're looking for we've talked about this on this channel before, where are the support and resistance levels? Where are the support and resistance levels? And on this chart, I'm looking for what we always look for at Tradeway. I'm looking for a pattern. I'm looking for support and resistance. I'm looking for something like this. This is what's tricky about these patterns, okay? Now, if you can, I'll open this up a little bit. You can see this stock comes into this area over and over and over again. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, before it takes off so much that, first of all, none of us would have ever known it was going to do that, okay? You would have had to have inside information on that, which we don't have. And it just didn't make it back to that line. Now, if you learn how to use these moving averages, you can use those as support and resistance. That's a skill set we like to teach people how to do. You can even use specific horizontal lines, meaning horizontal price levels, even as it's moved over these last 3 days. You could use some of those potentially to at least have some objective lines in the sand that help you know, where did this stock pivot? How do I manage risk? How can I dramatically reduce the potential for me to see the stock that I just jumped into turn right around and drop against me. And I want to show you something else now. I believe still on the weekly chart here. Let's get to the daily chart. In fact, I want to go back here real quick. That's why. I apologize, guys. That was looking at a weekly. So, okay, so here we are on Gritstone, okay? So these guys here look kind of familiar, okay? This is a daily chart, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, okay? 4 days, the stock goes from $7.31. In fact, in 2 days, it goes from $7.31 to $35. That's a significant increase in 2 days. And then what does it do? It tries to continue, but it gets crushed. So again, this just highlights what I was just talking about. If we don't have some kind of a system for going, how am I going to manage changes in price, but also the emotions that are going to come up in these trades. And I know this because I've worked with a lot of traders. And once they get in a position that they didn't really have a system to help them identify where to buy, where to sell, where to cut losses, their emotions start to go wild. If the stock's going up, they don't want to get out, but they know they've made money, but they don't want to get out. Why? Because they could maybe make more money. So it's profitable, but that mindset means they'll never get out. Well, if it goes down against them and they could have made X amount if they got out, but now it's down, they definitely don't want to get out because they were profitable and now they're not. Who wants to lock in a loss? So they stay in it. What if the stock keeps dropping, keeps dropping, keeps dropping? Well, sometimes what happens is it keeps dropping. The pain gets so great, they exit the position. I can't do it anymore. I have to let this position go. And now that they've let it go so long, it's now at a price that other traders are willing to buy. And it pivots right after they get out of the stock or shortly thereafter. And this happens. This is the psychology that we can kick out of the equation when we understand how to use patterns and support and resistance and the disciplines of trading that we teach so that these things can be opportunities, but they don't have to be nightmares. And that emotional cycle can be very frustrating, very challenging. And I know some people may just get in and get out. They gamble and they walk away with money. But for as many people that do trying this that way, there are many, many, many others who have a different experience. And of course, we want to help more people have an experience where they're controlling their emotions and they have a system that drives their decision making. Okay, so we talked about testing. Obviously, the big one that we see in the news is vaccines, right? We see vaccines. So Johnson & Johnson, that's a big one, right? That's a very big one. So what do I see on this chart? Well, some of you who are out there watching today in the 70 to 170, now that's appreciation. I would say so. We want to win when you gamble, the house wins. Yeah, that's exactly right. We want to have the math in our favor. Benjamin, I see you there too. Just checking in on you guys there. Okay, so what do I see on this chart? Well, let's take a look here. Trend line. How about this? Drop that guy in there. I'm just going to take this line. Oop, can't grab it. That right there. And I'm even going to do what we talked about recently. It's one of these ooch lines here. You say, well, Blair, you kind of missed some stuff here. Yeah, that's what we call anomalies. Okay, that doesn't help me so much. It moves outside the pattern. It's part of the price action. But the lines, it's really pivoting at. Now, that's a key word, okay? We're going to teach you how do I identify and draw these good lines so that I have a way to anticipate where it might pivot based on where it has been pivoting. This is a great stock in that it's appreciating. It's doing very well, right? The stock isn't as explosive as some of the other ones, but the opportunities here are certainly, they're still present, okay? There are opportunities in this stock. We've seen that. Why? Well, first of all, we know from the left side of the screen to the right-hand side of the screen, the stock is moving up. That's an opportunity in the stock overall, but specifically, it keeps pivoting near the same points. I would even be willing to take this line and kind of go up like so. And then I just move this one down just a tiny bit there. I actually like that even better. So that is what I like. Now, what do I not like? Now, this is something that I'm going to throw out there, but this is something that our students will learn. This is a nice little nugget of wisdom, okay? I'm not going to teach the whole mechanics of the pattern that I see on this chart today, but I can tell you that I don't like this, okay? I don't like this right now. So this doesn't tell me that this is never a stock I would look at. This tells me that this is a stock I don't like today. In fact, I may not like tomorrow either. I need to see it do something very specific for me. Otherwise, I'm not interested in this right now. Perhaps it stays in my watch list. But I've got to know what to look for. Because, like I just read in the comments section there, I'm looking for the edge. I'm not just looking to buy stocks that are popular in the news. I'm looking for the edge. I'm looking to be able to take advantage of the Johnson & Johnson price movement again and again and again. You say, well, Blair, why wouldn't you just, what if I somehow knew I could just buy at 133 and I could have sold it at 170, let's just say 173, right? Well, you wouldn't know that, but if you did, okay, great. You'd be able to go 133, 173, okay? You could make $40 a share. But what if you could take advantage of every single one of these rises and falls, every one of these dips? Or even maybe more realistically, you'd have to see 1, 2, maybe 3. Maybe you started there, okay? And you were able to do it from there. 3, 4, 5, okay? So you could actually do better doing the short-term movements than you would have if you'd done the whole thing, okay? And who's to say you can't do both? So lots of flexibility, lots of options, but some things I don't like about it right now. So I don't just buy just because it's popular in the news. Here's another one. Of course, most of us have heard of this. And this one's sort of somewhat similar to what we looked at. Again, this is vaccine. So here's what I'll say about all of these, but certainly some of these vaccine ones, the Johnson & Johnson, the Moderna, the Pfizer, which we'll look at in a second, extremely news heavy, okay? So you have to know that, number one, earnings here, it's coming up pretty quick. Like I said, that's going to be true of a lot of these. But also, they're very news heavy stocks. So you're taking on a certain measure of risk and a certain measure of, it's pros and cons. The news could help you tremendously in these, but of course that volatility being present, it could hurt you tremendously. So think about, hey, when you're looking at this is something we teach our people all the time. Just give you a little preview into it. Think about how much money should really be at risk. I heard the whole Wall Street bets thing. Some people putting incredibly large amounts of their money, not just a large amount of money, but a large percentage of what that particular individual or family had, and just threw it at some of these stocks because they thought there was an opportunity. And of course, we hear the stories on some level of those who made, huge returns, maybe millions. But how many other people got stuck in a position that really hurt them? I work with a lot of people. I read the stories. I used to tell stories about MoviePass. For those of you out there who remember the company MoviePass, I don't want anybody who watches this program to be in that category. I want you to know how to protect yourself, and I want you to understand that there are disciplines to this that can help you take advantage of the opportunities. We want you to take advantage of opportunities. We just want you to be able to be safe when you're doing it. And there's more retail trading, which is what we are talking about today, happening right now than ever before. And so this is more necessary than ever before. Don't just be interested enough to be dangerous, okay? Be interested enough to be equipped. I'm going to say that again. Don't be interested enough to be dangerous, right? Nobody wants to sit on the sidelines. Be interested enough to get yourself equipped to be effective. That's what we want to do. So this stock, again, it's extremely hot. Look at how it just got buried there, right? It's retested that level, dropped off. It's been able to continue to go up. Now, notice how differently these are actually performing. And I'll even just show you Pfizer here, okay? Very different. So to just go and pick a stock based on the fact that they are developing or have developed a vaccine, well, that's obviously what we just looked at in these charts. That's not going to be enough, right? The news on that level is not going to be enough for us to make a good decision about what, and certainly not about when. So the challenge here is, what is it really doing, and how is it going to give me an objective level to get into the stock? So again, we want to teach you patterns that are present on this page and show you how to analyze the chart with us so that you can make some of those decisions. And no, every trade should have a very simple, at least simple plan. It includes 3 numbers. Every trade has to have, I say this all the time, got to have at least 3 numbers identified before you ever buy the stock. And that's something that we teach you in the program. Very simple. Got to have those 3 numbers though. Caution. I've said this already. We don't just jump in because it's in the news, because they have a vaccine, right? We don't want to gamble. You go into a casino, you gamble, you say, well, hey, Blair, I could win something. Yeah, you could, but most people don't, right? And the casino is going to put the picture on the wall of somebody who won 50 grand at the slot machine. That's one picture up on the wall. How many other people? And I've watched this, you guys. I've watched the psychology that I've learned in trading play out in a casino. I'm not in a casino very often, but I've been to some, and I've seen this psychology play out, and most people walk away with far less than they could have, or nothing. So in this stock, look, hey, we had that big run, but it's getting crushed. Okay, it's quite different. This stock is just dropping. The stock is just moving down. Talk about hot or not. Well, there may be some possibilities still here for this, but right now, I don't see it. Now let's take a little bit of a zoom out, and let me pop this guy in here. So we had a major hit there. Unfortunately, this line, this is a specific pattern we used. I'm going to take this guy because you see it keeps getting up to that level and falling. But the bottoms are still getting higher. But what just happened here? What just happened? It came down and it tested that bottom, but we went below it this time, right? Earnings report happened. You say, well, Pfizer, they've got this earnings report. Surely they're going to crush on the earnings report. You know, the government's buying X $100 million worth of, well, the stock's moving down. You say, man, I picked Pfizer. Why didn't I pick Moderna? Why didn't I pick Johnson & Johnson? Why aren't they acting the same, right? For me, I don't even need to know that information. I don't need to know all the company data, right? Because that's not what tells me what and when. The system that I have of trading tells me the what and when. I can immediately look at a chart and go, I like that chart. I don't like that chart, okay? And this one is actually getting below that level. Now, is Blair saying it's going to go down to 30? No, not necessarily. Maybe down to 32. We'll see. We'll see if it can pass this spot it's at right now. But it is below that line, and I don't like that. Is it hot right now? No, it's not. It's been dropping pretty rapidly, actually. So we already looked at this one. You don't want to get caught at the top. What happened here, right? Speculation most likely took over, largely drove it to wild highs. And then, you know, Wall Street goes, we're getting off the train. And then it crashes. Now, that's testing stocks. Let me make sure we got no questions. Sitting in here. Yeah, there you go. Patterns present on the page. Yeah, somehow that always comes out when I do these with you guys. Just a couple more quick things for you guys. We've talked about testing, right? Some of those stocks you're going to see out there, that has to do with that side of things, right? Certainly there are healthcare stocks, right? We didn't really even get into that side of things. Personal protective equipment, all those kinds of things. There's huge demand there, right? Demand for a lot of this stuff changed dramatically. We could look at testing. We could look at vaccines. I think those are the most popular ones. And I didn't look at everything in those areas, but I did look at the most popular ones, the most talked about ones. If we go over to something a little bit outside of the box, I just wanted to give you this as an example. There's lots of companies I could look at as an example. We could look at Walmart. We could look at Costco, retail, especially those discretionary stocks, those ones that don't go away, right? People, if we get into economic challenge, people tend to stop buying as many new TVs, toys, vehicles, but they don't stop buying groceries, right? They don't stop buying gas, okay? They do stop buying some of the other stuff. Well, if you look at Netflix, this is something that they haven't stopped buying. And since we've been in a very unique condition, remember I said unique conditions create unique opportunities. Netflix has been doing extremely well as a result of that, okay? This is outside the box of how we would maybe think about this. But just know there are some really hot stocks out there that are doing well also because those are the places we're shopping. And some of it, I'm going to be honest with you guys, drives me a little crazy because we're supposed to be helping small businesses. And I know certain restrictions in certain places are actually driving people away from small businesses and driving them to places like Amazon. Okay. I don't have a problem with Amazon. I have a problem with small businesses not being able to operate. I do have a problem with that, but they are doing very well. Okay. Now, this is a huge increase since this happened from that low right there to this high. Okay. So not today's stock price, but the low here in March when everything dropped, which Amazon didn't see a whole lot of a drop. Okay. Percentage wise for them at the time, it was big, but really in the grand scheme, look at what has happened here. And this kind of movement you'll see on a lot of stocks. This is part of the opportunity. So you want to know, how do I get in? How do I get out? How do I protect myself? We've covered some of the bases today, but there's more that is practical. So what I want to invite you guys to do is be able to get in on this stuff practically. I talk about looking at some other stocks, getting outside the box, looked at Netflix, looked at Amazon. What do you do with these? How do you find these other ones? What are these other ones that I'm talking about? Well, I'm posting a link here for you guys. There's going to be a free training, okay? This is a free training for you guys to be able to attend, and it's going to be with some of the best coaches that we have. Jared Russell will be on there. I believe Ben Russell will also be on there. There's no relation there, but they'll both be on this webinar, and you will be able to register. Just click that link I popped in there on YouTube. If you're watching this by recording or you are watching this on Facebook, it looks like it's not posting to Facebook, so you can find the link at the Tradeway YouTube page. Simply go to the YouTube page, click on Tradeway, or search Tradeway, click on that. You'll be able to pull that up. It's a free training, okay? So you want to go in, and what is this training? We're looking for stocks. It's called How to Find Good Setups. And that's a good place for us to land today. We looked at popular stocks today. Some of them are really hot. Some of them are not. But where are the setups within those stocks that say opportunity, edge? Again, into the comments. I don't just want to trade. I want to trade with an edge. I can buy stocks. I can open up my phone right now and buy stocks, right? I can buy a popular stock right now. We're looking at Amazon on the screen. I could go buy Amazon. But I'm looking for edge, and I'm looking for what we call a setup. A setup is another way of saying I see edge present. I see probabilities in my favor present on the chart. So we're going to help you understand what that means and how to find it so you can begin to take another practical step into being able to do this with your money. Okay. That said, everybody, thanks so much for being on here tonight. If there are no further questions, just remember, hey, we don't want to know enough to be dangerous. we don't just want to be in there enough where we're dangerous to ourselves and our money. We want to be in there enough where we're willing to get equipped to be dangerous in the markets. So Corvus says, you can't buy right now. The market's closed. You can't. You can send in an order. I could send in an order to the market, and they would fill it as the market opens in the morning, unless you have some after hours privileges, and then there's some flexibility that you could approach there. So that said, all right, everybody, thanks so much, like I said, and we will see you on Monday.